I woke up to the sound of my wife whispering sweetly into the phone at 12:47 a.m. She didn't know I was awake. She didn't know I was listening. And she sure as hell didn't know I had once spent 7 years as a Marine Corps sniper and the last 6 embedded deep in the Bureau's counterintelligence division. Yeah, sweetheart, he's got no idea. Tomorrow night. Just make sure it looks messy. That's what she said. Word for word. I lay still. Didn't blink. Didn't breathe too loud. I'd heard voices like that before. Soft, practiced, seductive. But I'd never expected it from her. Not from Lindsay. She hung up 2 minutes later, slid her phone under the pillow, and curled back into bed like nothing had happened. My heart didn't race. My pulse didn't spike. That's not how I'm wired. I've waited 36 hours in a wet hole just to take one shot. I've walked into basements with armed targets and walked out without a mark. I don't panic. I prepare. The next morning, she made pancakes. Smiled like always. Kissed my cheek, told me she loved me. I smiled back. She didn't notice I'd already wiped her phone at 3 a.m., cloned the contents, uploaded it to an encrypted drive. She didn't notice I had rerouted our home security feed to a private server, or that I'd installed silent motion sensors under the floorboards when we moved in. Just a habit. Old instincts. A man like me doesn't really retire. For years, I lived in the shadows of dirty wars and deep state missions, and when I finally walked away, I thought I could have peace. A home. A marriage. I thought I could be normal. But normal doesn't exist when you've spent most of your adult life watching people die for secrets. Lindsay and I had been married 5 years. Met in Colorado Springs, right after I'd left the Corps. She worked at a nonprofit, sweet, friendly, someone who said bless you when you sneezed and meant it. She'd never asked much about my past, and I liked that. But I should have known. Last week, she started locking her phone. Changed routines. Talked less. Her smile stayed the same, but something in her eyes flickered, just a little off. I didn't question it. I watched. Because that's what I do. That midnight call changed everything. She thought I was some retired guy with back pain and a boring government pension. She had no idea I still carried 3 burner phones, kept a SIG sour in a biometric safe behind the HVAC unit, and could pick up a tail at 200 yards. She had no idea I'd already noticed the black Suburban parked down our street, the one that showed up 3 nights in a row and always left with its lights off. She had no idea I'd pulled surveillance footage from our neighbors' cameras and seen 2 men get out, one with a crowbar, the other with gloves. She had no idea I'd already prepared everything to take out 10 of them, if I had to. Because when you live long enough in silence, your instincts never fade. They just wait. Tomorrow night. She said it so casually, like she was talking about dinner plans. Make sure it looks messy. I know what messy means. It means don't ask questions. It means an accident. It means body bags without answers. So I spent the next 12 hours preparing for a war I never thought I'd fight again. Not overseas. Not for my country. But in my own home. With my own wife. And this time, I wasn't playing defense. At 5:12 a.m., I started my list. I've always believed in preparation over reaction. Emotion is sloppy. Precision wins. I opened the small black notebook I kept locked in my gun case and wrote 3 words at the top. Freeze. Track. Respond. First, freeze. Lock down everything. I transferred all our funds into a secure personal account I'd set up years ago under a different name. Lindsay wouldn't notice yet. The online dashboards would still show balance updates, but all withdrawal functions were ghosted. She'd find out too late. Next, I disabled her access to my health records, pension, and any survivor benefits. If this was about money, she'd come up empty. Track. I cloned her phone again, set it to push every incoming message and call to my laptop in real time. Texts, voice notes, even deleted drafts. If she so much as breathed into that mic, I'd hear it. Then I pulled the metadata from her recent photos. One stood out, a picture of a cappuccino from a cafe she claimed not to know. GPS tag said otherwise. I ran the location through bureau tools still connected to back doors I'd never disabled. That cafe? Known meeting spot for a local fixer crew. Ex-military. Not smart. Not discreet. But cheap. Exactly the kind of trash someone like Lindsay would hire if they thought they were being clever. Finally, respond. I checked my emergency storage locker 5 miles out of town. Still secure. Inside, my old field gear, a duffel bag with unregistered weapons, cash, burner IDs, and 2 thumb drives. One for leverage, the other for exposure. If this thing went south, I could burn the entire operation and disappear within 90 minutes. I'd rehearsed it a dozen times, never thinking I'd need it here. I watched Lindsay that day. She acted normal. Too normal. She cleaned the kitchen. She made lunch. She kissed my cheek again. I kissed her back. But I saw the way she glanced at the clock every hour. Waiting. Planning. I acted like nothing had changed. Like I hadn't already mapped her every movement over the last 6 months. Like I didn't know she met someone named Trevor 3 times at that same cafe. Each meeting 43 minutes long, followed by 2 encrypted phone calls lasting under 90 seconds. I traced the number. Burner. Registered to a fake name linked to a shell company in Nevada. I cross-referenced the company's clients with former bureau watch lists and found a name that hit me like ice down the spine. Derek Lowell, ex-CIA. Last seen in Serbia, 2016. Went private after the agency cut him loose. Known for organizing accidents and making them look organic. House fires, car breaks, gas leaks, the messy kind of quiet. And Lindsay had called him sweetheart. I leaned back in my chair and exhaled slowly. So this wasn't just betrayal. This was premeditated execution. And she thought I wouldn't see it coming. The irony? I train guys like Derek. I know every move they make before they make it. But what she didn't know was that I wasn't planning on surviving tomorrow night. I was planning on ending it. All of it. On my terms. I spent the afternoon making everything look normal. Normal is the best camouflage. I mowed the lawn. Took out the trash. Drove to the store and picked up eggs, milk, and batteries I didn't need. Smiled at the cashier. Waved to the neighbor across the street. Every move was rehearsed. Every glance, every step, calibrated for maximum invisibility. Lindsay stayed home. Said she had a headache. She watched a cooking show, flipped through her phone, then pretended to nap on the couch. But I could see the tension in her shoulders, the way her jaw flexed every few minutes. She wasn't relaxed. She was waiting for confirmation. At 4:03 p.m., her phone buzzed. She didn't answer right away. Just glanced at the screen and turned it over. I didn't need to see the name. I already had the message mirrored on my laptop upstairs. It read, "Final details confirmed. You're in the clear." Clear for what? That was the question I already knew the answer to. She was setting the stage. I ran a check on our home insurance. 3 days ago, Lindsay had quietly increased the policy. Double indemnity for accidental death. She listed me as the sole insured party. Cause of death didn't matter, as long as it wasn't self-inflicted. They were planning something that could pass for an accident. Something messy. I walked into the garage at 6:17 p.m. and stared at the water heater. Gas-powered. Recently serviced, according to the sticker. But the valve looked wrong. Like it had been tampered with. I took a photo. Ran it through a database of known sabotage methods. Result: Lowell variant type B. Classic signature move. Create a slow leak. Wait for spark. That's how they'd do it. Burn me alive in my own home. Blame it on faulty equipment. No forced entry. No witnesses. No suspects. Lindsay would be conveniently away at yoga. Come home to find the house in flames and play the grieving widow. Insurance check in hand. Tearful interviews on local news. And then vanish with Derek Lowell. A clean exit. Too clean. At 8 p.m., I turned on the sprinklers, made dinner, poured 2 glasses of wine. She didn't touch hers. Said she had an early morning. I nodded, took her glass, and drank it myself. She went to bed early. I waited an hour, then crept into the basement. I disabled the gas line entirely. Then I installed a pressure surge valve with a hidden micro camera, just in case someone came to fix it again. Finally, I laid out everything I'd need for tomorrow. Weapons, comms, cash, gloves, burner phone. I checked my body cam. Same model we used during off-the-book missions. Still worked. Still recording. I wasn't just going to stop them. I was going to document every second. They thought I was blind. They thought I was asleep. But I was already inside their plan. And I was about to turn it inside out. At 2:14 a.m., the black Suburban came back. Same one from 3 nights ago. No headlights. No engine noise. Just a slow roll to the curb. I was watching from the attic, flat on my stomach, thermal scope steady in my hands. The camera I'd mounted earlier on the mailbox caught everything. I synced the feed to my laptop. Time-stamped. Stored. Backed up. 2 men stepped out. One tall, shaved head, wearing a hoodie and gloves. The other smaller, lean, moved like someone who used to be military but hadn't trained in years. Their gait was wrong. Too casual. Too sure of themselves. Sloppy. I watched them walk past the front door and head around the side of the house. One of them glanced up at the bedroom window. I'd left the lights off but the curtains half open, just enough to show two silhouettes in bed, mannequins under the sheets, one with a wig that matched Lindsay's hair. They bought it. They were here to finish prep. Final sweep before the hit. The tall one pulled something from his jacket, a small canister. I zoomed in. Chemical dispersant. They'd spike the gas line again. Make sure the ignition would be instant. No survivors. The smaller one pulled out a phone. Took a quick video of the side of the house, probably for Derek. I made note of the angle. Later, I traced the metadata. For now, I needed them alive. For now, they left 8 minutes later. No rush. No nerves. Just quiet confidence that their plan was working. I stayed in the attic another hour. Still. Silent. Focused. At 3:30 a.m., Lindsay stirred. She walked downstairs, barefoot, hair tied up. She thought I was asleep. She thought the house was quiet. She poured herself a drink, not wine, bourbon, then sat in the dark kitchen, scrolling through her phone, smiling. Whatever message she got made her smile wider. I didn't need to read it. I already had the full thread. Derek had sent her a photo of plane tickets. 2 seats. One way. Panama City. Departure, tomorrow night. She replied with a heart emoji and 3 words. Can't wait, baby. Baby. I took a deep breath. She got up, put her glass in the sink, walked back upstairs, slid into bed beside the mannequin she thought was me. It took everything I had not to say a word. But this wasn't about confrontation. This was about control. The pressure was building. They were too confident now. And when people feel safe, they get lazy. That's when they make mistakes. I set an alert on my laptop. If Derek's number pinged any tower within a 10-mile radius, I'd know. If the Suburban moved, I'd see it. Tomorrow, they'd make their move. But they'd forgotten the one rule I'd lived by for 20 years. Never underestimate the man who watches in silence. By noon, the house was empty. Lindsay had left for her yoga retreat, an upscale spa 2 towns over. She packed light, left early, kissed me goodbye like everything was normal. But I wasn't there to receive it. She kissed air. I was already gone. The mannequins were still in place, the house still baited, the gas lines still disabled. But I wasn't waiting for them to strike anymore. I was going to take the war to them. I started by visiting a private storage facility 30 minutes outside the city, a place I hadn't entered in years. My fingerprint still worked. Inside, I grabbed what I needed, a small black duffel containing burner comms, tactical surveillance gear, and a hard drive with years of precompiled data, old operations, classified identities, safe house addresses. Insurance. I checked the laptop synced to Lindsay's device. She was still texting Derek. More lies. More plans. She told him everything was ready. The insurance. The house. My sleeping pills. I didn't respond. I didn't need to. At 2:45 p.m., Derek's number pinged a cell tower on the east side of the city. Close to the drop site I knew he favored. Abandoned textile warehouse, secured but isolated. I'd used it myself once, back when I still wore a badge. I pulled up drone footage from a private satellite feed I still had access to. Nothing overhead, yet. But I knew how Derek moved. He liked tight formations. 2 in first, 2 to clear, 1 to monitor the perimeter. That meant 5. But I prepared for 10. Always double what you expect. That rule saved my life in Fallujah. It was going to serve me again here. I packed the duffel, checked my Glock, loaded non-registered plates on my truck, and hit the road. I didn't think about Lindsay. Not anymore. This wasn't about her. This was about principle. About the kind of betrayal that burns so deep, it goes quiet. Past rage. Past grief. Into that cold space where decisions aren't emotional anymore. They're surgical. At 4:06 p.m., I pulled into a blind spot 2 blocks from the warehouse. No surveillance. No patrols. Just quiet. I watched. Then I waited. At 4:33, Derek stepped out. I knew it was him, even after all these years. Same stance. Same smug posture. The kind of man who thought he'd never be outplayed because he'd never met someone willing to fight dirtier than he was. Until now. I watched him greet the team. Laughed. Passed around photos. They were still smiling when I started recording. Because this time, I wasn't just going to stop them. I was going to expose them. And when I was done, None of them would ever walk free again. I sat parked in the blind spot for 2 hours. Didn't move. Didn't flinch. The warehouse was quiet on the outside, but I could see the edges of movement, glass reflections, roof shadows, the ripple of someone adjusting their rifle inside a broken window frame. These weren't amateurs, but they weren't elite either. They were exactly what Derek used, skilled enough to kill, dumb enough to be disposable. I set my gear in place. Directional mic, thermal camera, drone uplink. Everything recorded, double-backed to 2 cloud servers. If I didn't walk out, someone would still see what happened. At 6:27 p.m., I made my move. I approached on foot, wearing civilian clothes, hands empty. Let them think I was unarmed. 2 of them were on perimeter. One smoked. The other scanned the alley behind him like a man playing war, not living it. I ghosted in behind the smoker and whispered the phrase Derek used in the Balkans for stand down. The guy froze. Didn't even get a word out before I tapped him behind the ear with the butt of my Glock, suppressed, deliberate, precise. He folded like a sack of bricks. Not dead, but out. The second one saw movement and raised his weapon. I was already inside his range. A sweep to the knee, twist of his wrist, muzzle toward the dirt, silence. Both down, both alive, both tagged with trackers. I needed them talking later. Inside, I moved like vapor. Derek stood at the center of the warehouse, talking into a phone, likely Lindsay's. He looked tired, arrogant, like a man counting hours until the payout. He told the crew everything was greenlit. He even laughed. Guy has no idea, he said. Still asleep. It'll go off at 2 a.m. Boom. Headlines by breakfast. I recorded every word. Then I stepped out of the shadows. No speech. No warning. Just enough presence for him to turn and realize what was happening. His eyes widened. Recognition hit fast, followed by fear. He reached for his sidearm. Too late. I shot once. Not to kill, but to disarm. Deliberate. Right shoulder. He screamed, dropped to the floor. The others hesitated. That was their mistake. I didn't fire again. Instead, I triggered the second layer of the plan, the wireless signal jam. Phones went dark. No calls. No uploads. No backup. They were trapped in the building with a man they thought was dead asleep in his bed. I handcuffed Derek with zip ties, pressed a comms mic to his throat, and activated the recording. Tell them what you planned, I said. He didn't answer, so I broke his index finger. Then he talked. For 10 minutes straight. Everything. Names. Dates. Payments. Lindsay. Every. Last. Detail. By 7:12 p.m., I had everything I needed. Derek's confession was clear, time-stamped, and backed up 6 different ways. He detailed how Lindsay contacted him 6 months ago through a burner referral. How she fed him every detail about my schedule, my habits, my blind spots. She gave him my medical history, the house layout, even access to the smart home system. He laughed when he said it, said she sounded more committed than half his usual clients. She didn't even blink, he told me. Just wanted it done before summer. Called it her freedom season. I didn't react. I just watched the words come out of his mouth like poison being drained. Then I left him cuffed to a steel beam and walked out. He wasn't going anywhere. The other 2 I'd tagged earlier were already stripped of gear and left zip-tied beside the dumpsters. They'd come to, confused and scared. I made sure their phones recorded GPS trails and sent them to my backup server before I dumped them. I didn't want blood. I wanted proof. I drove straight to the safe house, a place I'd kept under an alias for years. Inside, clean laptops, clean networks, direct uplink to bureau contact lines I hadn't used since I left. I uploaded the full recording. Then I added Lindsay's texts, the insurance changes, the GPS logs, surveillance footage from the house, and 2 flagged financial transfers. One from her to a shell account, one from that account to Derek. Altogether, it was enough to open a federal investigation with conspiracy to commit murder as the lead charge. But I didn't send it to the bureau. Not yet. First, I sent it to one person. Lindsay. No message. No subject. Just the file. Clean and raw. Let her see it. Let her sit with it. I wanted her to know she wasn't just exposed. She was finished. 30 minutes later, she called. I didn't answer. She left a voicemail. No apology. No regret. Just panic. I don't know what you think you saw. It's not what you think. Can we please talk? Second voicemail. More tears. More denial. You don't know what it's been like living with you. You never trusted anyone. You never let me in. Maybe I made a mistake. A mistake. That's what she called it. I archived both voicemails. Time-stamped. Stored. Then I sent the full file package to the bureau. No names. No return address. Just evidence and a message. Operation Lowell. Civilian collateral plant. Conspiracy confirmed. Suggest immediate action. Then I sat in the dark and waited. Not for her. Not for them. But for the knock I knew was coming. Because the second you break the illusion of safety, the world responds. And I just shattered hers. At 4:02 a.m., the knock came. Not on the front door, on the back. 3 quick raps. 1 long. A signal. I opened the door to find Agent Keller, same guy who recruited me back in 2009. No words. Just a nod. He walked in, scanned the room, then dropped a black case on the table. "I've seen enough," he finally said. "You did good work." Again. I didn't respond. I didn't need to. He opened the case. Inside, a flash drive, 2 sealed warrants, and a thin folder with Lindsay's photo clipped to the top. She'd been flagged for pickup. The bureau had moved faster than I expected. "She's already in custody," Keller said. "We got her at the border. Private airfield. She never made it to the plane." He didn't mention Derek or the others. I assumed that part was being cleaned up quietly. Spooks dealing with spooks. No headlines. No press. Just erasure. That's how these things work. I flipped through the file. The confession had done its job, but it was the financials that sealed it. Her digital fingerprints were everywhere. Phone records, deposits, burner purchases, insurance increases. Every action she took betrayed intent. Keller waited like he wanted me to say something. But what do you say when your wife tries to have you killed? Nothing. You move forward. He finally stood, handed me a slip of paper. New ID, clean slate. You disappear, like always. I didn't take it. Instead, I slid over a separate folder, my terms. I wasn't running. I wasn't hiding. I was staying exactly where I was. Because for once, I wanted the truth to sit in the open. I wanted people to know what she'd done, what they planned, and what I did in return. Keller looked at the folder, then at me. "You sure?" I nodded. He didn't argue. He just walked to the door, paused, and said, "You could have burned them all. You didn't. That matters." I didn't answer. After he left, I walked out onto the porch and watched the first light creep over the trees. The same porch I'd rebuilt with my own hands. The same house she tried to turn into a crime scene. It was still standing. I was still standing. And for the first time in months, I wasn't waiting for anything. No more pretending. No more shadows. Lindsay was gone. Derek was in custody. And the men who came with him wouldn't see the outside of a cell for the rest of their lives. All because I listened. All because I didn't yell, didn't fight, didn't warn. Just watched. Prepared. And when the moment came, responded. The house was too quiet without her. But not in the way you'd expect. It wasn't absence I felt. It was relief. No more staged smiles. No more rehearsed affection. No more pretending I didn't see what was already burning beneath the surface. Lindsay was gone. And she'd taken her secrets with her. The lies, the deception, the little rehearsed touches she thought I'd never notice. I'd kept the evidence. Not for revenge, not even for prosecution. For closure. The bureau had offered to wipe it all away. A clean break. New identity. Start over somewhere warm, somewhere anonymous. But I'd had enough of pretending to be someone else. I didn't need to disappear. They did. So I stayed. I filed the paperwork for divorce the same morning the bureau finished their sweep. No contest, no statements. Just signatures and silence. The media never caught wind. That part was handled. I didn't care about headlines. I cared about peace. I sold the house a month later. Packed up everything I wanted to keep, which wasn't much. Some photos, a few tools, the old black notebook with her name circled in red ink at the top of the final page. Everything else went in a dumpster. I bought a cabin outside Flagstaff. Small, quiet, off-grid, exactly what I needed. No neighbors. No noise. No pretense. Just trees, wind, and silence. The kind that doesn't scream at you. The kind that finally lets you think. Sometimes I'd replay the recording of Derek's confession. Not for validation. For clarity. To remind myself how deep it had gone. How much trust I'd given away without question. That would never happen again. The bureau kept their word. The men involved disappeared into federal custody. Derek cut a deal. The others didn't get one. Lindsay, she sat in pretrial lockup, facing federal charges. Attempted murder. Conspiracy. Insurance fraud. Her lawyer tried to play the victim angle, said I was controlling, distant, maybe even abusive. Didn't work. They had her voice, her texts, her choices. They had the truth. I didn't testify. I didn't have to. The evidence spoke louder than I ever could. The final sentence was handed down in silence. 22 years, federal time. No parole. She cried, I'm told. But not for me. Just for the life she thought she'd have. A life she tried to steal. Now, when people ask me if I regret not stopping her sooner, I say no. Because this wasn't about stopping her. It was about finishing what she started. On my terms. Without a single raised voice. Without a single wasted threat. Just one quiet man, waiting and watching. 6 months passed. The silence stayed. Not the hollow silence of loss. Not the tense quiet of waiting. This was something else. Earned silence. The kind that only comes after you've taken everything apart and rebuilt it with your own hands. My days were simple now. Up with the sun. Coffee on the porch. No phones. No noise. Just the sound of wind through pine and the slow turning of pages from the books I never had time to read. I'd started carving again. Woodwork was the one thing that never betrayed me. No lies, no schemes, just pressure, angles, and patience. You make the right cut, the wood holds. You rush it, it splits. People are the same. A letter came in mid-November. Handwritten. No return address, but I recognized the handwriting. It was from Lindsay. 1 page. Careful script. No apologies. Just explanations. She wrote that it started as curiosity, then resentment, then temptation. That she thought I'd never see her, never really know her, because I lived so far inside my own silence. She said I scared her, not because of who I was, but because of what I never said. Because I never begged, never yelled, just watched. She was right. I burned the letter without finishing it. Some things don't need closure. That winter, a local sheriff knocked on my cabin door. Said he'd heard I used to work in federal ops. He had a missing hiker case and not enough manpower. I didn't ask why he came to me. I just nodded. The body was found 3 days later. The family got answers. He offered me a job, part-time, discreet, just consult when needed. I said yes, not because I missed the field, but because some people deserve to be found, and someone has to watch the dark corners no one else is looking at. I don't talk much about what happened. Not to the sheriff, not to the bureau, not even to myself. There's nothing left to say. Some men fight back loud. Others build systems that speak for them. She thought I was asleep. She thought I had no idea. But I'd been preparing for that moment long before she ever picked up that phone. Because the quiet ones, the ones who don't flinch, who don't shout, we don't need to prove anything. We just wait. And when the time comes, we don't ask questions. We end it. Then we walk away. Not broken. Not bitter. Just whole. And finally, free. Drop it in the comments. Hit subscribe. This is where we talk about what doesn't get forgiven.